Hello and welcome back. I'm Brian Marciano. I'm in Lafayette talking to a local public address announcing, well, a legend in my book, Dick Callahan.
Hi, Brian. A delight to see you again. It was enjoyable when we did this a long time ago. It's been a while, but we're back at it again, and I'm thrilled to be part of it. So thank you for coming, and thank you for including me.
Dick, there's so many memories. I don't know where to start. Maybe I remember with the Warriors, but it all started with St. Mary's. I mean, I know your background. You came from Pennsylvania. Tell us how you got your start at St. Mary's. It was like 1975?
It was 1975, Brian. I had moved from St. Louis to here in 1975 and called over to St. Mary's to see if they had a need for an announcer. At the time, they were doing the old Channel 6, the old Cablevision Channel 6, was tape delaying St. Mary's football games and showing them. They would tape the game on Saturday afternoon and show them on Sunday morning about 10 o'clock on the old Cablevision 6 out of Moraga.
Sure.
So we were, I got involved with St. Mary's, and they needed somebody to come in to do something. The timing just happened to be right. And the first game I got to do in 1975 was the renewal of the Little Big Game, which is a football game between St. Mary's and Santa Clara.
Absolutely.
And then it's gone on for some 35 years.
Exactly. I remember you always with the basketball, and it would have started at people now know McCune Pavilion. Tell us about Madigan Gym and the dead spots.
Well, Madigan Gym was an experience in itself. Just to enter Madigan Gym was an experience. But they had the press table, so to speak, was elevated. So you had to go up the ladder, climb up on the ladder, and the press box was on the side. And the whole building would vibrate with the crowd. I think they would probably be able to accommodate about 1,300 or 1,400 people. But they had dead spots on the floor. And the coach at St. Mary's at the time, Frank Laporte, was able to recognize where the dead spots were. So he trained the various defensive positions to move the person over to the dead spot, and he bounced the ball, and it would not come back up.
Exactly. No.
So it was great. Once you knew where they were, it was like another 6 to 8 points a game just from those.
No, I remember I found those dead spots. It would have been later in the 80s, just playing in there after St. Mary's games. And no, I could never picture, as I said, you'd walk in, there was a lobby, and then you go underneath, and the stands were behind you.
Yes.
I never saw a game there, but you saw them play. I mean, that famous game against UNLV, and to tell us.
Oh, with Tarkanian he swore he'd never come back here again.
And he didn't.
He didn't. No, he didn't. Well, he was correct. But they had probably one of the great games there was the last game they ever had, which was against Portland State.
Okay.
And Freeman Williams was the leading scorer in the country that year. And he missed 2 free throws in the overtime period, and St. Mary's went on to win it.
Right. And then talk about, I think McCune Pavilion opened probably about 79, and just, I mean, that's a long time ago now, but I remember probably for me, it was that 89 team. I don't know, I was probably about 18 years old, and the guys were like 22, but they seemed like almost heroes to me. I mean, like guys like Robert Haugen and David Carter. And in fact, I remember this. We were playing basketball there outside, and we saw him. We asked him if he wanted to play, and he was very nice. He said, "No, I was working on my game." But you know, just and then I think they went. That was because St. Mary's. They're up and down. They were up that year. Do you have memories of '89?
I have memories of a lot of those young men. Haugen was an unheralded player. He's in their Hall of Fame now. But he was a great inside player.
Right.
He for a guy of his size, he was able to jockey position really, really well.
Right.
And get in and score. He wasn't necessarily a great long-range outside shooter like David Vann was or Peter Tebow was. But even David Savulich, who came out of there as a three-point leader. But those guys could play. They could play basketball, and they loved the challenge of taking on bigger teams. They had great games against University of Nevada at Reno.
Sure.
When Edgar Jones played up there.
Right. I forgot about Edgar Jones.
Yeah, and there were some great games there where they got together, and both here and up in Reno.
Right.
But I was fortunate enough to do the PA for the last game in the old gym, and the first game in the new gym. And the first game in the new gym was against Stanford.
Wow. Okay. So because usually the Pac-10 teams didn't want to come there, particularly Lou Campanelli at
Kent.
They still don't.
They still don't want to come there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the coaches used to say there's absolutely no upside to
exactly. Yeah, no, that's true.
If we win, we're supposed to. If we lose, we're really not in very good shape. So.
No, I just thought of something also from that time period. It was the rivalry with Loyola Marymount. because with the late Hank Gathers,
Yeah.
Bo Kimball, Jeff Fryer, and I remember, I think in '88 they beat us, but in '89 we beat them.
Yeah.
And I remember
Yeah.
that was a huge deal. ESPN might have even been there, like on a Monday night, and because no defense was definitely not by Loyola Marymount.
No.
Yeah.
The last thing they needed was a shot clock. They had no idea what a shot clock was.
Yeah.
Because they were scoring 130, 140 points
Exactly.
in a game.
It was Paul Westhead, formerly the Lakers.
Westhead,
Yeah,
yep,
exactly.
yep.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There's just so much, and we have a limited time. We might have to come back. But I joke, we'll get to
You
the
come back
Oakland.
every 11 years. It works out great.
Exactly. No, I'm thinking maybe we come back. I don't know. You're selling insurance here, maybe about like every month or something like that. And even when you're not here, because I was telling Matt, who's helping us with the camera, you didn't even realize because you're always sitting at your desk, which we'll show later.
Right.
But you got a mini TV. You got a mini TV studio right here.
Well, we can always do that.
And exactly, and I can come and interview you, and I can also interview other people because I know when you won't be here because when the A's are at home,
Right.
you're not going to be here.
I'm not going to be here.
Okay, so we
Exactly
can
right.
work that out. Okay.
Sure.
And the other, the fun thing, the Warriors, and that's where I should have started with the people. They see you, they know you, but they hear your voice. Let's say, I don't know. I don't think Magic Johnson ever was called for traveling at the Oakland Coliseum, but let's say he was. And what would happen next?
Well, I had three ways of calling it. And I altered the way it was called based upon the visiting team versus the home team.
Right.
The home team's called it was basically traveling violation.
Right,
that was
right.
it. But when the visiting team was called for it, it was either steps,
Right.
too many steps,
Right.
or traveling.
That's the one I remember. The
Any one
traveling.
of those three, those were the ones.
And then let's say Purvis Short drives the lane and either like Kurt Rambis or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar hacks him and he goes to the line. What's going on now?
At the line for the Warriors, number 45, Purvis Short, shooting two.
Right. And did that come from where did that you just thought of that in Moraga? Where did that come
Yeah,
from?
it was something that I just thought of.
Right.
I've always liked the word S, the letter S,
Right.
part of it, and it always sounds good to
Right.
do it. So I just started it, and it caught on. It was one of those things that caught on, and
Right.
players got a kick out of it, fans got a kick out of it.
Right.
It also had a way of tranquilizing the audience when
Right.
our guy went to the free throw
Sure.
line, because it caused the noise to
Yeah.
subside. So they would. People would they think I was telling them to shh, be quiet.
Right. Okay.
So
yeah.
it started at that, and then it would be a case of where they would wait, and then once it was made, then you get the residents of the shooting two from the crowd.
Right.
It worked out. It was not nice.
And the other thing I had to do, I remember like most of this stuff, but I got tipped off from an older guy how you got the job. There was a famous story where the PA announcer at the time, Tony King, for whatever reason, it's a big mistake, but it wasn't a huge mistake. He called Norm Nixon's alma mater of Duquesne as Duquesne.
Yes.
And Bill King just went nuts on the radio saying, "Stop the broadcast. I can't believe what I just heard. The Warriors public address announcer Tony King has just referred to Duquesne as Duquesne. This is awful." And so literally, I mean, that happened. And then like a week later, you're applying for the job.
Well, it was a little bit coincidental when it happened, because the other side of that is that Tony got a job with the Giants.
Okay.
And he had to leave to go to spring training.
Okay.
So there could have been some coincidence to this, but
Right.
Anyway, the Warriors called me and wanted to know if I would come over and finish
Sure.
the season.
Yeah.
And I said sure. And Franklin Muley was the owner at the time, and Bob Bester was the general manager, and of course Al was the coach.
Right. Yeah.
And they said just no guarantees now.
Right,
We'll
right.
just finish the season. I
Sure.
said that's fine, not a problem. I think. I'm trying to remember now. I think I was getting $25 a game.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And this was 1981, the
Right.
end of the 1981
Sure.
season.
Okay.
So I said I'm happy to take it under those same conditions, because I may not want to continue either.
Right. Right.
Well, that led to almost just under 20 years of me working.
Sure.
over there, so I stayed a long time.
Absolutely. And I'm trying to think. My memories of the '80s are guys like Joe Barry Carroll, Purvis Short, Mr. Mean, Larry Smith.
yeah.
What was it like? Because for me, I have to make a confession here, Dick. I follow sports now, but it's not quite as exciting. These guys were like legends to me. What was it like being around these guys? And also, go.
Well, I was like a kid in a candy store.
Okay, yeah.
Because I too thought
Yeah.
of them as legends.
Right.
It was really my first experience to be around professional athletes.
Right.
I've been to college
Yeah,
athletes
sure,
for a while, but not for the professional athletes.
Right.
And I found them to be a great, engaging group
Right.
of guys. Joe Barry Carroll, I thought, a lot of people complained about him, and his facial expression was one almost of I don't care, I don't really
Right,
care.
right,
That
right,
was
right.
not the case at all.
Right.
He did care.
Yeah.
I think he'd have been probably a better player had he been allowed to play the forward position
Sure.
instead of the center position. He was much better shooting from the baseline than
Right.
he was from right around it. But he met my daughter Colleen one time at Cal in
Sure.
a class.
Yeah, yeah.
And he came up to me later and he said, "I really like talking to your daughter."
Sure.
He said, "She has thoughts."
Right, yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's a nice assessment
Exactly.
of your
Yeah,
child to
yeah,
say that.
yeah, that's
but
good.
he was great about it. But I liked him.
Exactly, and the other thing, it wasn't his fault that we traded Robert Parrish and then the third pick, which turned out to be Kevin McHale, and because I mean that's not his responsibility, and yeah, no, I always remember him, and I all forgot about that one year when we really tanked, and that was the year he went to Italy. He was so exactly. I mean, and then maybe that'll lead to that '87 season. I mean, because that's it. I mean, you saw a joke. You saw a lot of bad basketball.
I saw a lot of bad basketball.
But I mean, exciting professional basketball.
Right.
But it wasn't until '87 that would have been like Sleepy Floyd, Purvis Short, and I remember it was the one thing I remember is just how different I remember going to the playoff game. I think it was against the Jazz, and there was a young Karl Malone, John Stockton, and afterwards, after we won, it was crazy. I remember walking across, and all these people, I'm like probably 15 or 16, they're all walking into the I think the A's were playing a game that night against the Twins. So it turned into a doubleheader. Exactly.
Sure.
Well, that's a good example. When you don't know what to do, just follow the crowd. But no, but
that's what I eventually did. I went across and did something.
Exactly. Yeah. See, that's it. You're a smart man as well.
Yeah.
But no, I remember that was we upset the Jazz, but then it was the Lakers, and I joke about this. I think about this. The Lakers won 5 world championships in the '80s, and all we have, and I still hold on to this, that one Sunday afternoon. The Sleepy Floyd game. It's like I think it was game 4, because we were down 3-0, and then to tell us you were there that day. I mean,
I did that game. It was on Mother's Day.
Right. Okay.
And it was 29 points in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And it's a record that still stands.
Sure.
So it's just a case of where it was amazing because Greg Papa, when he was doing the play-by-play for that, at one point in time said Sleepy Floyd is Superman.
Right. That's right. Oh, yeah.
And that's exactly what it was like to watch him just take control of that game.
Right.
And when you think about somebody scoring 29 points in a quarter,
right,
it's still only 12 minutes of basketball.
Exactly.
And he just took over the game.
Right. And against the Lakers. I mean, it wasn't like we were playing the New Orleans Jazz or the Sacramento Kings or something.
Right,
exactly.
Right, yeah.
No, and also, it was also when the Superman, but also the roof has just blown off, or that might have been another game where Papa showing the roof is blown off, the Oakland Coliseum Arena or something. Okay, and no, but that's the thing. I joke. I mean, we didn't even win the series. We just won one game. But we beat the Lakers. I mean, that was like the greatest thing ever. And then also I think about this. As a kid, like I believe things. Like I would say, oh, the Warriors have drafted Russell Cross. This has got to be good. They must know what they're doing. Or you saw a lot of I remember like Russell Cross, or I'm trying to think. The one that was a little later was Tellus Frank. And I mean, I don't want to. Maybe I'll get kicked out and never be able to go to the Coliseum again. But there must have been. Were they scouting, or maybe they just heard Tellus Frank playing the radio once and it sounded good. And the other one, the one we did know about was Chris Washburn, because in 1986. There was no internet, and so if word was out that a guy was trouble, he was trouble. You were there. What's your memory of that draft?
My memory of that draft, I was inside what's called the war room.
Okay.
And my job was to announce to the press who the Warriors were going to pick, or whoever, even picks above that.
Right.
But what they were, and I remember when Dan Finan, the owner, came in and tried to talk George Karl out of taking Washburn. And George wanted him. He wanted the big body. He said he could make a player out of him. And Finan said to him, the reputation and the things we've heard. And George said, I want to take my chances.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And the rest,
work out.
The rest is history. Okay. I'm trying to think what else. Probably some positive memory. That's also because we had that one successful season in '87. And then things just went south, and I think it was the guy you mentioned. That's how Don Nelson was that the Milwaukee.
That was the Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan Finan and Jim Fitzgerald were owners in Milwaukee.
Right.
And then they bought the team here.
Sure.
And brought Nelson.
Right, exactly. Because for me, as a kid, I'm thinking, my God, I mean, this is the greatest thing ever. This is I mean, because I remember watching in the '80s. I mean, because the Sixers just were so tough, and the Boston was so tough, and Milwaukee was kind of, they would give those guys a run, you know,
Yep.
with like Marcus Johnson and Junior Bridgman and all those guys, and then we did Nelson. I mean, that must have been exciting times. The early '90s with Chris Mullin, Mitch Richmond, and Timmy Hardaway. What are your memories of that time period?
Well, of course, it was the TMC.
Right, that's right.
And,
Yeah,
and they really could put an offense up.
sure.
They weren't too conscious of defense.
Yeah,
But they put an offense up. And Nelson always figured if you just run far enough and
Right.
strong enough, you can outscore them.
right, right.
Don't worry about stopping them. Just
Right.
just beat them.
Sure.
But they did. They were exciting to watch because Mullen was truly a gym rat.
Right,
I mean,
right.
he really was. He would shoot and shoot and shoot during the day or the evening. The team would go on the road, and Mullen would find access to a gymnasium
Sure.
someplace in the city, and he'd get somebody to take him over there, and he'd shoot for 6 or 7 hours
Right.
in a gym on a day off. Totally committed to his game, totally committed to making himself a better
Right.
player.
And he became an all-star.
Yeah.
He was
And
on that
Hall of
dream team,
Famer.
Hall of Famer. Yeah. And the other is sort of his friendship with Manute Bol. I mean,
Right.
I heard a story. They were in Brooklyn or something. You know, everybody's drinking. You know, all the Irish, and they're coming out of a bar. You know, 2 in the morning, and all these people walking down Flatbush Avenue, and they see Mullen with this 7'6" guy from the Sudan, thinking, how long was I drinking? Oh, exactly. Yeah. No.
Well, the interesting thing about Manute Bol, when he played before he came here, he played in Washington.
Right, the
And
Bullets.
he played with Muggsy Bogues,
That's right. That photo.
the
Yeah.
little guy, and Muggsy was about 5'4", and Manute
Exactly.
was 7'7"
Yeah.
and 3/4.
Exactly.
They used to say that Manute was the only guy who could change the radio station in his car from the back seat. He could sit back there
Yeah.
and reach and do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
He was. Muggsy told me a story one time that when they were coming out of the Capitol Center
Yeah.
in Maryland,
Sure.
and Manute was speeding.
Yeah.
And Manute was so far back, and Muggsy was up here on the right-hand side, on the passenger side, that the police officer stopped him, didn't
Yeah.
necessarily arrest him, but he stopped him.
No one's driving.
And the reason, because he thought that Muggsy was driving from the right side.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he didn't realize how big
Yeah.
Manute was.
Well, yeah.
And Muggsy said he got out, and the guy was, not even eye contact with him. And then Manute got out,
Right.
and the cop went, "Oh my God!" Looked up and he saw this big frame in front of him.
Right. Right.
But Manute, of course, who passed away.
Yeah, no, that is sad. I mean, he
but
did a lot of good stuff.
He did a
Yeah.
lot of good stuff.
No,
and,
yeah, no, it's hard to believe he's not with us
and
anymore.
he was a gentle giant. too.
Right,
He
right,
was a
right,
Wonderful
absolutely.
human being.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what we should transition. It's your shirt. I mean, talk about. I mean, I have to tell people. I know this. I don't want to blow your cover. I mean, you sell. I mean, you're still working. I mean, you have
Sure.
how many jobs do you have, Dick?
I don't have any jobs.
Okay, okay, yeah,
I have careers that
Yeah.
I'm able to blend.
Right.
But I love all of them.
Right,
So I'm
exactly.
happy with them.
Yeah,
It's,
exactly. Yeah.
I sell life insurance. We sell every product here.
Right.
My son-in-law sells some group insurance. My
Sure.
daughter sells group insurance in her office in Pleasant Hill.
Sure, yeah, Colleen.
We sell it here, and it's. I just love doing what I do. I'm very blessed. When I say that at the time there were only 30 teams in the NBA,
Right,
and I
right.
had one of those jobs.
Right.
And now there's 30 teams in the Major League Baseball, and I have one of those jobs.
Absolutely.
So I've been blessed with 2 jobs like that in over whatever number of years I've been doing this.
Exactly, and there's no end in sight. Young guys come up to you and they want a sort of a tip, and what do you tell them? You tell them apply for another job because you're not going anyplace.
I'm not going anyplace.
Yeah.
My health is good. Thank God for that. I've had my challenge in 1994. I had bypass surgery.
Oh, wow.
But it's been great since then. So I'm just going to keep going as long as I can go. God gave me a good voice. I don't really abuse it.
Yeah.
And I like doing it.
Right.
To me, it's a. Every time I go into do an athletic event, it's like an oasis.
Right,
because
right.
Whatever problems I had during the day, when I leave my car in the parking
Sure.
lot, all the problems stay in the car.
Yeah, and the other thing I was thinking is you never miss a game, and you told me there's a reason why.
Well,
Well,
you don't ever want to be Wally Pipp.
Right, right,
Wally Pipp was the first baseman of the Yankees, and he took a day off, and a guy named Lou Gehrig stepped in.
right,
And over 2,000 games later, Gehrig come off first base.
right.
So you never want to surrender your microphone in the event that somebody's better than you are, and
exactly.
you lose the job. So you just stay with it.
And there must have been a few hairy traffic situations, where you might not get to the game. I remember you telling me the one. I forgot about the Warriors playing in San Jose. Yeah, yeah.
I got there at 25 minutes after 7 for a
Right.
7:30 game.
Right.
and the young man who was with the Warrior organization at the time, who was going to fill in for me. We didn't have cell phones in those days. That's a long time ago. So anyway, he just looked across somebody coming through the tunnel, and he just mouthed, "Get over here."
Right.
Because he realized this is not an easy job.
Right.
A lot of people think that the PA announcer's job is easy. It's not necessarily easy. I'm not saying it's really difficult, but it is not easy.
Yeah.
And you just sit there and try to make it creative. You try to reduce the number of words you use, but still be informative and somewhat entertaining.
Right. No, actually, that you mentioned, and also, actually, yeah, you went from 41 games with the Warriors to 81 with the A's, and some of those are extra inning games.
Oh yeah. I've had 2 19-inning games.
Right.
No, I'm sorry, 1 19-inning game, 2 17-inning games.
Yeah.
1 18-inning game.
Right.
Yeah, and the bad news with those, Brian, is you can't go to the bathroom. That's the biggest problem.
Okay, that's a big problem.
You're in the chair because you've only got 2 minutes in between innings.
Right.
Unfortunately, at the Coliseum, the location of the men's room from where I am in the press box, prohibitive.
Right.
Can't get there.
Right. No, yes, as you're saying, this job is not as easy as it looks.
No.
Okay.
No.
But talk about that. I mean, in fact, I joke. That's when I know to contact Dick. I look at the schedule. I check with Matt. I say, Matt, when can you do this?
Right.
And then I'll say, well, I know Dick. No. Next week's a homestand. It's got to be this week.
Right.
Because it's good. I mean, that's a lot. Particularly it's the day game after the night game.
Those are the tough ones.
Yeah.
When we had the 19-inning game this year, there was a night game. Then I had to go the following morning.
Right.
I was emceeing an event for Special Olympics at Acalanes High School.
Yeah.
So I had to be over there. So I got home at 5 minutes of 3 in the morning.
Okay.
I was getting into bed, and that was okay 30 years ago.
Right.
That's not okay anymore.
No.
But so I had to be over at Acalanes at 9 o'clock.
Sure.
And then left there around noontime or so for the school events that they had. Went to the Coliseum that night, and we had a 4-hour and 20-minute game that night.
Right.
And then the following day we had a day game.
Exactly.
That was tough. That's a tough time.
You probably, I don't know, you probably get paid by the game. You might want to rework your contract to get paid by the hour.
I'm just glad to be paid.
Okay, that's it. That's the key
Whatever
thing.
it is.
Yeah. No, and I'm trying to think. Talk about like the current A's. In fact, there's a baseball sitting here.
Yeah, that's a baseball that I got a couple of weeks ago from Bartolo Colon. This was his signed ball from the All-Star game.
Right.
And these are the things that are really, really nice when you deal with the athlete. He didn't have any reason to have to do this.
Sure.
He just wanted to do it.
Right.
He likes my work. He likes me. We like each other.
Right.
And he pulled this out of his backpack one night in the parking lot a couple of weeks ago. And he said, I've been saving this for 3 weeks to give to you. And it says right on here that it has his name, and it has Bartolo Colon, 3-time All-Star.
Yeah.
And it shows the game, and it's signed, and he's got it signed right in the middle, if you can see it.
Yeah, I sure can.
And it's really, really nice. It's a treasured possession of mine.
Yeah.
I was, Brian, to be honest with you, I was almost reduced to tears from it.
Okay, yeah.
I was so overwhelmed that he would take the time to do that.
No, because that's the thing. You see a different side of all these different these players. But Cologne, I mean, people might think, well, I guess with the steroids or the suspension, but I look at he's my age and he's still pitching.
Yeah, he's still going.
I mean,
and he got 15 wins. And
right.
That's not shabby.
No, exactly. No.
And he would have actually pitched in the All-Star game had he not pitched on Sunday.
Yeah, speaking of that, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but because of the 15 wins and other things, your season now extends. Last year, you learned a valuable lesson about when to schedule a family cruise.
Yes, and I learned the lesson, and I got a reprieve about Christmas time.
Okay, yeah, but to tell what we're talking about.
We were scheduled to go on a cruise because I drank the Kool-Aid from everybody else that said we could lose 100 games. We're not going to go here. We're not going to go there. Well, obviously it didn't quite happen that way. Yeah. Went into the playoffs and had it scheduled for the week we were in the playoffs.
Exactly.
So everybody had to kind of decide, well, let's just do something else. So Princess Cruise Line were good enough to give me an extension.
Sure.
So we'll see what happens.
That's a good way. No, because I think I was trying to think of an example. The same thing might be happening in Pittsburgh this year. Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, for years you could schedule your vacation the first week of October.
That's exactly, and nobody's going to bother you.
Exactly. Not this year. I'm trying to think. What are some of the I mean, because it's an international game. I remember you telling me about Matsu. What are some of the toughest names for you to say?
Oh, well, there's a guy that's in the league now that I still have a problem with it. It's Shin Soo Choo, because I blew it.
Okay.
This year
right.
I blew it. I called him Shin Soo Chin.
Okay.
And it was so funny because as soon as I did it, I knew I'd made the mistake.
Right.
And there was no repercussions until the following morning.
Sure.
The players pay attention to what I say.
Right, right.
So it was that was the night before we had the root beer float day at the Coliseum.
Yeah.
And when I went in the next day, and Sean Doolittle, let's see, it was Sean Doolittle, Josh Reddick, and I'm trying to think who the third one was. Jerry Blevins.
Okay.
And as I walked in, all three of them were standing there and said, "Tough night at the mic last night, Dick, huh?"
Yeah.
Because I called him Chin
Yeah.
instead of Chew. And I knew who he was because he had played for Cleveland before he was playing
Right.
for Cincinnati.
Right.
So to recover myself, I went to Marty Brenneman, who's
Sure.
the Cincinnati announcer, and I said, "Would you get on the airplane?" And I said, "Do me a favor and
Yeah.
tell them that I apologize for making a mistake." But it happens.
Yeah, exactly. But there is a lot of preparation. I mean, you study all the names, but you must be a few of them like that guy where you hoping this guy doesn't pitch, hope this guy doesn't pinch hit. You know.
You look at the name on there and you said, "Please, get hurt, trip, fall, do something, don't show up in the game."
Yeah.
But it was interesting because over the years you got some strange names.
Sure, yeah.
The one that I keep looking at now that's still in the league now is Jared Salthalamakia. That's not easy.
No.
When Hideki Matsui was playing for us, I asked him if it was correct, the pronunciation was correct. Is it Matsui or Matsui?
Sure.
And he said it was Matsui. And he said, "You do it perfectly."
Right.
And I said, "Okay." Every time I saw him the rest of the season, all he would do was point at me and say,
Right.
"Perfect."
Exactly.
That's all he would say,
Yeah.
was perfect.
Yeah, no.
So they liked that.
Yeah.
When Garcia Parra was here, I asked him if it's Garcia Parra or Garcia Parra.
Yeah.
And because I'd heard both in New England.
Sure.
And he said, "No, it's Garcia Parra." And thanks for
Yeah,
asking.
exactly. No,
So they're appreciative. This picture that you see here,
Oh, yeah.
Kevin Kuzminoff. That's another. He's not in the major leagues at the moment.
Right.
But when he played here, I started with him with a Kevin Kuzminoff, and then they elongated it on the scoreboard, and the fans would pick it up.
Right.
Kevin loved it. He thought it was great. So we have the picture as a reminder from him.
Yeah, and trying to think, years go. How many years have you been doing the A's games now?
This is it's technically it's 10 years.
Right.
But there was a couple of gaps in there because
Sure.
Roy Steele was
That's
able
right.
to come back.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's more like 6 full. I mean, I've represented every year over the 10 years.
Right, right.
But the number of games were different until about 2006. And
Right.
It's been
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what we should do is I think we might have to make this like a two-parter. We'll have because we still haven't covered a lot of the things we need to cover. And the other thing, you have to give us a tour of everything that's hanging on your walls here.
Oh.
I mean, I look around and maybe Matt, if I talk long enough here, and we can do a little bit, but I'll come back. Actually, you can do it afterwards, Matt. But I'm looking around. I'm surrounded by Latrell Sprewell, Timmy Hardaway with a pacer. I forgot it was
That's a paper one.
Yeah.
Pacer because I couldn't get a Warrior one. I tried to get a Warrior one.
Yeah.
With Sprewell, I coined a spree for three.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, when he would hit a three, I'd
Sure.
call it spree for three, and he loved it.
Right.
He actually had his license plate on his car changed to spree for three.
Spree for three. Okay.
As a result of that.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm joking. He had some. Maybe that car was repossessed.
Oh,
yeah,
if it's with his boat,
we don't know anything about
we
that.
we're staying on that.
Exactly. Yeah. And then of course above you, 17, Chris Mullen.
Chris Mullen.
Exactly. And then I guess probably Gio Gonzalez there.
That's actually Gio Gonzalez. All-Star game batting practice jersey.
Okay, yeah.
And so he signed it. You can't really read the writing in there from but he signed that and gave it to me. It's up in his number.
Actually, we're really testing Matt here. I mean,
that's pretty hard.
We'll see.
Pretty hard to do that.
And then Bailey,
and then
pitcher.
Andrew Bailey,
okay,
who I worked with his uncle.
Okay.
In Pennsylvania
Right.
years and years ago.
Scranton.
Philadelphia. This was in Philadelphia at the time. Yeah. Scranton is where I started.
Exactly. We'll give Matt time to catch up. Tell your Scranton story. How you know what year it is in Scranton.
Oh, by the car.
Yeah.
That's really, you got to give credit to Joe Madden, the Tampa manager, because he's from there too.
Right.
And he said the only reason you know what year it is by looking at the new cars, because everything else is remained the same.
The buildings were the same.
Everything is the same.
Exactly.
Everything is the same.
And
then it's Daniel Marshall.
We'll get that after. Yeah, exactly. Don't worry about that, Matt. We'll get Daniel after. Danielle Marshall.
That's tough getting that one.
Exactly. No.
O'Donnell Foyle.
O'Donnell Foyle. And see, I was hoping. I was hoping. Mr. Mean. Larry.
He was 13.
See, exactly. Yeah.
Joe was the first-round draft choice out of Maryland.
Right.
And never really.
That's what I joke. It wasn't. That's the one thing that we have to cover. The one year the Warriors finally win the draft, and it's not Joe Smith's fault.
Right.
He was great at Maryland, but the guy. There's no LeBron James. There's no Magic Johnson. It's Joe Smith is waiting for us, and we draft him, and he's he's average at best. He's about as
Oh.
good. He's about as good as his name sounds.
Yeah,
and
he's a good second line player.
exactly. But he was the #1 pick. I did look it up. We should befriend him. He played 17 years in the league.
Oh, sure.
I
Oh, no,
mean,
he's hung on.
exactly. I mean, so but again, I joke. It's all when you get that #1 pick. Because I even think back with Chris Mullen, that was the whole famous 1985. It was the first lottery, and they're still talking about because the Warriors had the worst record that year, and the Knicks won. Right. That was Patrick Ewing. And they were saying how David Stern put the envelope in the freezer so they could reach in there and
there was all kinds of conspiratorial theories that have existed about that.
I think that one's
there
true.
Was a different substance on the envelope.
Yeah, because they did change. I mean,
in theory, the first one he picked up was Ewing.
Okay.
And it was supposed to go to, and he put it back.
Exactly. He waited, and but actually, I think the Warriors they literally got the 7th pick that year, and it actually worked out because
it worked out great. Mullen was great.
Exactly.
Oh, sure.
I mean,
Mullen
it's sometimes there is some luck into because I forget. I think the Kings got like Joe Klein. I'm trying to think who else was in that draft, but. No, the key pick.
Joe Klein. Well, you're right about Joe Klein. I'm trying to think who else was in there.
Yeah, well, see, I do extensive research. My research staff on the show is me, and usually it's just my head.
Good staff. It's
a great staff,
you're very knowledgeable.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, I'm trying to think. We should wrap up, and we will come back because the one thing we didn't talk about, it's going to confuse people. Tell them what the Spirits of St. Louis are.
Well, the Spirit of St. Louis was a basketball team that moved to the city of St. Louis from Salt Lake City.
Right.
And the interesting story with this was when I lived in St. Louis, I got to know Jack Buck.
Sure.
And Jack told me that there was going to be a team moving to St. Louis from Utah.
Sure.
And he said, did you want to apply for the job on KMOX as being the play-by-play announcer? And I said, I'd love to do that.
Right.
So we got our tape reels together. As you know, it's a lot easier today, but in those days, this was in the
about 75, 76.
73, 74.
Before even earlier,
before he came here. And so I got the tape over to him, and there were 10 applicants.
Sure.
Today there'd be 500.
Yeah.
But so Jack said they're evaluating your tape, and so it was 10 down to 8, down to 6, down to 5. It got down to 2.
Right.
And Jack called me, and he said they took the other guy.
Right.
And I said, I guess that's too bad. I feel bad. I would have liked to have done it. But he said they really liked your work. And they wanted to know if you want to do some other things. And I said, no, I'm just interested in doing this. I said, who got the job?
Yeah.
He said, well, they gave it to some kid from Syracuse, New York, named Bob Costas.
Right. At the time,
Costas was a total unknown at the time. Well, not that I was any more known, but so then in 1999 in Oakland in the All-Star game, Costas and I worked together.
Sure, exactly.
Because I was doing the PA for that game, and he was very gracious when I
Yeah.
met him and told him the story, and
Right.
he said, I never knew. He said, I know my agent was really pushing and said they really liked your work. But he said, here we are 25 years later working together.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
We can tell some of those stories like Marvin Barnes and whatnot.
The tire iron.
The tire iron, exactly. Assaulting, or my favorite is like, I got to get my time zones. You're flying east to west. You're flying from Louisville to St. Louis, and the itinerary said leave Louisville at 8:02, land in St. Louis at 8:01. And exactly that I'm not getting on no time machine. I'm not getting on no team that'll take me back in time. So it might have been a break it would have been a circus. And maybe we'll end on this note that it would have taken your life in a different direction and away from me. We never would have met.
You know something, Brian, in the long run, it was a great thing that happened the way it happened.
Because we haven't touched on, I mean,
I love it here.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah. So let's end on that note, and then we will come back. We'll sit down in the conference room and look over some of these old programs.
Love to do that.
Okay. And it won't be 11 years.
I hope not.
Okay. Fair enough. No, I can't thank you enough, Dick. Every day is a good day, but like when you're hanging out with Dick Callahan, that's even a better day. So thanks again. I mean, this is wonderful, Dick. Thank you.
You're welcome, Brian. Thanks for having me. Thank you.